Okay. The focus of this little mini lecture is going to be on two very important concepts to this comic book, and those are Apollonian philosophy and Dionysian philosophy. These philosophies connect to the god Apollo of the sun and the god Dionysus of the moon. And certain colors in the comic book are associated with Apollo, and certain colors are associated with Dionysus. And those colors carry meaning as well. They're very important. The Spartans are associated with the god Apollo and Apollonian philosophy, which has to do with reason and logic, control of emotion, the belief in controlling your destiny or fate instead of it being controlled by the gods, so reality instead of supernatural. And the colors you're going to see associated with these things are yellow, red, tan, orange, these type of colors that you see most often with the sun and with the Spartans. It's also going to represent liberty and freedom. Now in reality, the Spartans also had slaves, but, in the comic book, we skip over that. They represent freedom and liberty. Now, Dionysus is a god associated with the moon, associated with partying and having a good time, instinct and emotion, the gods and supernatural, and they are going to be associated with the Persians and the idea of slavery. Okay? The colors associated with Dionysus in the comic book are going to be black and that kind of moonlight silvery blue, and blue, those type of things. And also, gold, because gold has to do with greed and that emotion. All right, so Dionysus is all about the emotions, and Apollo is all about reason and logic. All right, so your first example of this that you're going to see is, as soon as you open the book, you see these Spartans marching, and again, you see, them marching, with a lot of reds and tans, right? The very next section you get when Dilios is telling his first story is you're going to see the Leonidas when he was completed his training as a young man, a young teenager. He's out in the woods alone, and a direwolf goes to attack him. Now, the direwolf is going to be symbolic of the Persians, particularly the Persian army and Xerxes. And, Leonidas is, of course, Leonidas, but he also is going to represent all of the Spartan army. And so you'll see here that you get a lot of blues and you get a lot of blacks and, a lot of dark silvery colors, surrounding that direwolf. And then, on the other panels, you have the Spartans, and, there's a lot of tan and red and warm colors. Okay, all right, now this story is symbolic and it's very important because you can already see both within the color scheme and the content and the dialogue and the narration, we see that Leonidas shows not a trace of fear. He's using his reason and logic. He is being calm instead of being emotional. He's using his tactics, and he's drawing the wolf into this narrow area where Leonidas has the advantage because he's smaller. And this is going to happen later on too, because the Spartan army, Leonidas is going to draw the Persian army into a narrow place where, again, their small numbers, the smallness of their army, has the advantage over the Persian army, who they're going to goad into attacking. He's going to piss off Xerxes, so he just keeps sending his army in there and keeps getting slaughtered. And he's using his emotion against them. Again, it's Apollo, reason and logic, versus Dionysus, emotion. All right, moving on. When the Spartans are first contacted, by the Persian ambassadors. You see a lot of tans, a lot of warm colors, the sun associated with the Spartans. And as the Persian ambassador tries to use emotion and fear to intimidate the Spartans are just calm and collected, and they use logic and reason to overcome the situation. They know if they submit, they're going to be enslaved. That it's going to take them fighting. It's going to take bravery. It's going to take logic and reason. They're going to have to use their reason and logic. Yes, you outnumber us. Yes, you have a huge army, but if we submit to you and don't fight, we're going to be slaves. So they calmly and collectively, toss the Persians down a big hole in the ground and kill them, showing absolutely no emotion. Just pretty interesting. Now, in chapter 2, duty, D-U-T-Y, not the other one, you see the moon directly associated with Dionysus. You have a lot of silvers and blues in this section. In the dialogue, in the narration, it says that Leonidas is thwarted by a foe who squats among the summer clouds, as round and fat as a gluttonous Athenian, and is talking about the moon. The moon here is going to represent emotion, is going to represent superstition and the gods, the old way of doing things. And you'll see that under the moonlight, Leonidas' cape looks bluish and silver. He's going to the ephors. He has to get permission from them to go to war. They also are colored in blues and silvers a lot in this section. Through the emotion of greed, they have been bought by the Persians. So again, Dionysus, the moon, is defeating him. Emotions are defeating him. Their insistence on the supernatural and the old ways and using an oracle and the gods and whatever to decide whether or not they're going to war. And Leonidas in the dialogue as well implores them, I prefer that you trusted your reason. And they call him blasphemous. They consult their oracle instead of, using reason and logic, and they forbid him to go to war, which may doom, all of Sparta. On the very next page, many of the Spartan senators or rulers or headmen, whatever you want to say, are urging him not to go to war again because of, this Dionysian philosophy, their superstitions. That's why we have a lot of blues there. And if you'll notice, there's not a lot of emotions portrayed between Leonidas and, his wife. They're dutiful. They know what they have to do. They're calm. They're not emotional in this. They use reason and logic. He uses his reason and logic to figure out a way to get around the rules here. So he's only, he's not going to war with the Persians. He's just going for a walk with his personal bodyguard. All right. Okay. So moving on. And, in his conversation against the Arcadians, he uses reason and logic against them. It's pretty funny. All right. So if you'll notice on this next section called the Hot Gates, again, we see the Spartans here bathed in blues and silvers and in gold, in silvers. And this is the one time we see the Spartans, talk about the gods and, because they say that Zeus is striking down all these Persians as the storm kills the fleet. So again, you have Dionysus showing up even there with the Spartans. All right. Okay. Moving on. Bear with me one second. We'll get to chapter 4, combat. If you'll notice, a lot of golds, a lot of warm colors associated with Apollo, sun, logic, reason, liberty. Because the Spartans, even though there are only 300 of them and they're fighting hundreds of thousands of Persians, are using strategy or using reason, logic, intellect to fight these guys. Instead of falling prey to their emotions. I mean, we even see the sun here as, the Spartans are just completely demolishing the Persians. Their way of doing things is winning out. The Apollonian philosophy is winning out. All right. We see this more, too, here with Xerxes meeting Leonidas. And Xerxes, a lot of times in Greek mythology, hypocrites are the villains. And, Xerxes is very much a hypocrite. He's saying, let us reason together. But he tries to use emotion to buy Leonidas off. He tells him, you're going to be powerful, you're going to be rich. He tries to tempt him with emotion, to kind of buy him. And, Leonidas isn't having it. He's using his reason and his logic. He's staying calm. He's staying cool. He's also going to use strategy. He's going to piss Xerxes off on purpose by insulting him, by attacking his pride, which is his weakness, emotion, to get Xerxes to send his best warriors now while the Spartans are at full strength, while they're fully rested. And, it's going to, it's going to mess him up. It's going to mess Xerxes up. Xerxes is also referring to himself as a god. On the very next page, the first night, we have the immortals, and notice they're silver and black and blue, and they're supposed to be immortal. Nobody can defeat them. They have their teeth filed to points, and they're legendary, and they're been lived forever.